Our title today is Granting Forgiveness, Creating a New Story. Matt Denton will be our guardian.
Thank you. Touched me from the depth of my heart to the depth of my core. And as I breathe in, I acknowledge my mother, Marie, who has displayed the gift of hospitality. Growing up, she had always welcomed people in, and I thought my mother did the holidays like nobody else. And a fabulous cook, and made the holidays special. And there was a joke going on with my brother's friends and a few of my own that the Minervinis was the place to be on Christmas Eve. So I honor my mom for her many acts of service, including, how she would just really honor the holidays in very traditional and special ways. And I also take a deep breath because she has been my greatest teacher, and I'm sure in some ways I've been her greatest teacher. And so let us take that breath in for all those who are mothers, either to their own children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, for all individuals, regardless of gender. So take this moment to just sense your own mother, allowing whatever emotion to be present, and be willing to say thank you. Thank you for the uncomfortable lessons. Thank you for the beauty and the gifts that you've bestowed on me, our family, and the world. And in this moment, as we take that breath for all those who have lost a child or a mother or a grandmother, may the palpable presence of grace soften your heart in this moment. As you breathe deep into your heart, knowing that love is eternal. Love is the glue that binds in all directions of time and space and of all eternity. And so may we be blessed by being the very qualities of the Divine Mother ourselves. For we know this world, our families, this community need it greatly. And for this and so much more, let us say amen. And so today, as we commemorate Mother's Day, I would like us to just take a moment to reflect on just a few qualities of the Divine Mother, the Divine Feminine. And these divine qualities of the Mother, the Feminine, are all abilities within all of us, regardless of gender. The question is, are we willing to embody them? And so some of these qualities are being heart-centered, accepting, compassionate, forgiving, gentle, wise, reflective, merciful, collaborative, sensual, kind, intuitive, creative. And so as we take a look at these qualities, I thought it would be only fitting for us to continue our series on forgiveness, for us to resume walking the fourfold path of forgiveness that is outlined in the Book of Forgiving, written by Desmond and Mfu Tutu. Because we can surely see forgiving is one of the aspects of the Divine Mother, and being heart-centered, gentle, wise, reflective, compassionate are all things we must embody in order to walk that path rather than walk the path of rewounding. And so today we are going to begin to look at the third step in the fourfold path, and that is granting forgiveness or making the choice to forgive. The steps that we have explored in previous weeks were, first step is to tell the story, naming just the facts, not assigning judgment or anything, but just naming the factual, physical things that we can experience with our senses, the factual events that occurred in a situation that was painful, hurtful. And then the second step was for then to get in touch with our feelings. What were the hurts, to name the hurts that we experienced? And in this process, to take a look at the grieving, the stages of grieving. And so today we are going to begin to look at the aspects of what it means to grant forgiveness, meaning to choose to forgive. And I'd like to share a story of many rich stories offered in the book of forgiving. And this story is the story shared by Kia Shear. It was November 14th, 2008. And Kia was on her way to Dulles Airport in Virginia. She was taking her husband, Alan, and her daughter, Naomi, to the airport, for Alan and Naomi were off to a 2-week meditation retreat in Mumbai. They were all excited, and so they hugged each other goodbye, and off Alan and Naomi went. And so every day, they would keep in touch with one another. It was a daily ritual to text, to email, to make phone calls to one another, to keep up with what was going on. And off Kia goes to Florida because her family was there, and it was getting close to the Thanksgiving holiday, and she was going to spend it with her two sons, her mother, her father, and other family members. And so they would communicate each day. And then on the morning of November 24th, it was like no response to her early morning communications, a time difference, and she would get up early. So she's like, okay, well, maybe they're busy. And then in the afternoon on November 24th, she received a phone call from the managing director of the Synchronicity Foundation, who was sponsoring the meditation retreat at the Oberoi Hotel in Mumbai. There was franticness and upset in the manager's voice as she shared with Kia that the Oberoi was under terrorist attack, the hotel and the surrounding area. And in that moment, her body began to shake. She was numb. And so she walks into the other room and shares the horrific news that she just got. And so they began turning the TV on, hoping to find what was going on, to try to keep up to date. Maybe they could see, an image of Naomi or Alan. And the very next day, she received another call, this time from the US consul in Mumbai, telling her that both Naomi and Alan were found, and they were shot while they were having a meal together in the restaurant that was located in the hotel. And again, her body quivered, her heart ached, she was numb. And she didn't really need to say anything to the family members because they witnessed her in the phone call and they could read between the lines. And so back she goes, and they all turn on the TV and they're watching. And there was one lone terrorist that either didn't die in the attack or who wasn't killed already, and his image appeared on the screen. And she said, in that moment, as she peered into the face of this terrorist, these words arose in her: "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And she was taken back because although she was a spiritual woman, she was not connected to a Catholic church or any Christian church. She didn't participate in any religious community. And in that moment, after hearing those words, she felt centering peace filled her, and she turned to her family members, and I'm going to share what she said. I turned to my family and said, "We must forgive them." Everyone was shocked. They thought I had lost my mind. But at that moment, I just said what I felt to be true. I felt a ray of peace arise in my heart, and I knew it was the right thing to do. I knew the only way I could go on living was to make the choice to forgive the terrorists. In those moments, I knew that forgiveness was essential. There is already enough hate in this world, I told my family. We must send our love and compassion. I knew that to respond with love to an act of terror was the only way to triumph over terrorism. Kia made the choice to forgive. The choice to forgive. It didn't mean that in the days that followed, that it was easy. It didn't mean that she bypassed all the stages of grief and didn't need to get in touch with the facts and her hurts, but nevertheless, she chose. And in that moment of sincerity, deep sincerity, we must forgive them. Something greater than herself, the breath of all creation, that which she is, that which we all are, the mysterious presence, the grace filled her to speak those words that she was not accustomed to speaking or praying. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. See, forgiveness is not something we can understand, hence the reaction of the family, right? How could we do that? You just heard this news. It is a mystical act, and according to Carolyn Mace, forgiveness is mystical, not a logical command. I know I've shared this, but it's so rich and important. It makes no sense to the reasoning mind because the reasoning mind is incapable of forgiveness. Genuine forgiveness is a self-initiated mystical act that requires the assistance of grace to release you, me, from the compulsive and often self-righteous chatter of the ego, which continually enforces a position of entitled anger or hurt. And so we are going to start to look at the first aspect of what it means to grant forgiveness, to choose forgiveness, not meaning that it is easy. And so there are three aspects. First, be willing to recognize our shared humanity, to release yourself from victim consciousness and become the hero, heroine, and create a new story. See, yes, we're meant to tell the facts of what happened, to name our hurts, But if year after year after year we are in that story, we will never be transformed by what happened. And so what do we mean by recognizing our shared humanity? Right here in Luke, the master teacher, Jesus, offers us that. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Looking at this metaphysically, Father is not a dude or a male figure in the sky with a beard that is granting our every wish or punishing us. When it refers to Father, it is an it. We surrender to the mystery of it. It is the allness, the absolute presence of all that is, the birther of life, the source of all life. And when we say it in a prayer, like, Father, please forgive them, they know not what they do, we are asking to align ourselves with a consciousness greater than the pain and the wounding we are experiencing. We are asking to be connected and aligned, to lift our consciousness, lift our vibration, experience that grace, and be aligned to the consciousness of the Christ. And the Christ is not something that we think of as only Jesus. It is universal. It is the illumination of consciousness that all paths, all people can experience. It is the consciousness of the I am. For it is only in being aligned in that consciousness could we even begin to think of forgiveness, even be able to tap into our common humanity, to be willing to know the story of those who hurt us, being willing to tap into those divine mother and feminine qualities of compassion, of accepting, of wisdom, of forgiving, of mercy. And they know not what they do. This is not from the morality standpoint, like, oh, they know right from wrong. It is not what Jesus was speaking of. And metaphysically, it is about the ignorance that is experienced when we are habitually conditioned by the thinking of humanity, the human condition, right? The one that will take a 3-year-old and give him a machine gun and teach him to be a terrorist at 3 years old. They know nothing else. It is that ignorance. It is the ignorance of being asleep to the truth, not just of our humanity, or that there is sacred worth because everybody else or somebody who's not like me is the other. It is a consciousness of being asleep, of not caring about our actions, because it's all about me. It is also being aligned with the adverse ego. We think of the ego as all wrong. We need it to operate, but the adverse ego is in that conditioning mind of the wounding, suffering, reactivity. And so before I give you some examples of how do we tap into the shared humanity, this is a rich passage from Desmond Tutu from the Book of Forgiving. And he says, we are able to forgive because we are able to recognize our shared humanity. We are able to recognize that we are all fragile, vulnerable, flawed human beings, capable of thoughtlessness and cruelty. We also recognize that no one is born evil and that we are all more than the worst thing that we have ever done in our lives. Human life is a great mixture of goodness, beauty, cruelty, heartache, indifference, love, and so much more. We want to divide the good from the bad, the saints from the sinners, but we cannot. All of us share the core qualities of our human nature, And so sometimes we are generous and sometimes selfish. Sometimes we are thoughtful and other times thoughtless. Sometimes we are kind and sometimes we are cruel. This is not a belief. This is a fact. Do you ever want to see it unconsciously in action? Go to Costco when they're giving out samples. They will knock you over for that sample. Just putting a little levity in something very serious. And so Desmond shares this about for us to get into what that means, to want to know they know not what they do, and our shared humanity. And he shares in the book, what if I was born into the white ruling class rather than a man of color? Maybe I would have been conditioned. Who's to say I wouldn't have committed violent acts, oppressed people of color? Who's to say? And who's to say if I wasn't born into extreme poverty, that I wouldn't have maybe stolen food from a supermarket or clothing? And who's to say, maybe some of you have been, right? That if I was a nurse or a medical worker who worked the long hours, seen horrific things through the COVID-19 pandemic, working through now people leaving the medical world in numbers because of that burnout, who's to say there wouldn't be days I would show up to one of my patients inattentive or irritable? And who's to say, I mean, this is something I believe, that we make choices of soul lessons we come in to do? What if I picked different soul lessons? Would I maybe have chosen to be the terrorist? I don't know. You know that saying, there by divine grace go I. There by divine grace go I. Rather than that animal. I'm not saying we're not going to have a human moment, but then we get to choose again, don't we? Choose again. So how do we get in touch with the humanity of someone who hurt us? Perpetrator is a big word. You could replace it with somebody who's caused you harm, someone you might have disdain for, someone you might even hate. You just see their very picture on the news, you might, Let's begin to maybe find out their story. If you can, get to know maybe what they might have come from, where they might have come from, be curious. Look for some similarities. Times you might experience, not that you act that way, but you might have experienced that grief or anger. And then ask yourself, what is this soul here to teach me? What is here? What is the lesson for me? That is what Kia did as she was going through her journey. She began to wonder, this terrorist had a mother. I wonder if that mother, I am sure she is grieving because the penalty he received was the death penalty, and he is no longer with us. I'm sure she's experiencing the grief that I am experiencing after losing my child. And I just wonder what that boy at maybe 3 or 4 years old felt when he was ripped from his mother to go train. In all of his innocence, what fear and terror must have been in his heart. That's where we can possibly begin. It is not easy. And then the other thing is where we get to cultivate compassion, where we pray for those who hurt us. And in the beginning, it can be with gritted teeth. I've had that knowing I should pray for my ex-husband, for my mother, for my former superintendent of special services, when I found that they were my quote unquote enemy or were hurtful in any way. Some of them not so much with gritted teeth, and others, yes. But nevertheless, I did. And this is what all of us are invited into, because we may say, oh, I don't know if I could do such a big act of forgiving. But each and every day we get to work our forgiveness muscle by cultivating compassion, recognize the common humanity of people, even in line at the store, being curious. And so some of the things that we can do is Tonglen, loving kindness, meditating, be compassion, doing the heart math, heart-centering breathing and cultivating compassion and sending it out. Maybe using, Father, they know not what they do, if that resonates with you. Tonglen is a Buddhist practice that the Dalai Lama, Pema Chodron, many other spiritual teachers use it. It's where you center yourself in your breath, you call up compassion, and then you sense the suffering of someone, and you bring it in, imagine it getting cleansed in the heart of compassion, and then you breathe out compassion and love back. Loving kindness is, may you be free of ill will. We're going to do a version of that this morning within the affirmative. And so before we close with meditation, I want to share, remember I spoke to you about that when we're really serious about something, how the universe, grace, something greater than ourselves meets us. So when I prepare for a Sunday lesson, there's the intellect, wanting to make sure it's organized a certain way. But when I go into prayer and I say, let this move me, let this heal me, let something I say possibly be something of healing to another. And I mean that with the sincerity. It's always remarkable, the synchronicities that happen and the healing that occurs in me. So I share one of them. I was so curious about the Synchronicity Foundation because that's the retreat that Naomi and Alan went on. That was an organization that was sponsoring that retreat, and she considered themselves spiritual. And when I went to their website, I was blown away. And we look at, these are phases of consciousness or aspects of Charles Fillmore, same thing, just different words. We have the intellect for the mental, the physical is the sensing according to Charles Fillmore. The emotional is our feeling nature, and the subtle is the intuitive. And if you read it, their guidelines, it's just beautiful. It's rich with meditations, meditation programs. And so I downloaded, it's called Pure Drop Meditation, and it'll be the music that we get to hear this morning when we go into prayer, bringing a piece of gratitude and knowing that Kia, Alan and Naomi has touched our lives in a way this morning, recognizing that, the importance of sharing our stories. And I also share this other with you. I love my mother, that goes without saying, and I've shared that I've had some challenging opportunities. And when I began looking at the common humanity, what if I was born in the time period of my mother? What, that whole thing, not that I never thought about it, but in a deep way. And then when I went into prayer, I did that, Father, they know not what they do. I wept like a baby. I mean, I've done exercises before, but this just took me to another level. And so let us together be touched and be willing So I'm going to ask you to find an individual, could be yourself, that you are wanting to feel some compassion, to experience the humanity of this individual. So if you call them to mind, and as the music begins to play, I invite you to close your eyes. Bringing your awareness to your breath. Allowing your breath to be effortless. Sensing the breath with each inhalation and exhalation. Allowing the breath to wash over your body as you begin to allow the breath to relax your muscles. And as the volume of the music is raised, allow the beautiful tones of the music to speak to your soul and open your heart. And allow the words of Desmond Tutu to soften your heart. I can draw you as a nobody, so unlike me. I can make you less than human. I can erase your story. Then I will have no work to do and nothing to forgive. But there is a pile of pain waiting for me, and I cannot remove it without facing your story, knowing your humanity. Oh, there is a pile of pain waiting for me, and to clear it away, I must admit our common humanity. Breathing in, I know that I am breathing in. And breathing out, I know that I am breathing out. And as I breathe in and out, I allow my breath to grow deep. Oh, deep to the count of 5. And out slow to the count of 5. And with each inhalation and exhalation, I decree that I am willing, oh, I am willing to call forth the aspects of the Divine Mother, sweet compassion, mercy, wisdom, gentleness. Oh, soften my heart. Let me sense call to mind perhaps a divine figure, perhaps Buddha, Jesus, Mary Magdalene, Kuan Yin, or perhaps it's someone in earthly form that represents the qualities of the Divine Mother. Sense this compassion and kindness and warmth emanating from your heart. Oh, allow me to be aligned to the consciousness of the I am, of the Christ. Allow me to be free from suffering. For I am grounded in divine strength and security. I am the presence of calm, ease. I am the embodiment of wholeness. And in this open-hearted space of my heart and my soul, and in holy union with the principle of pure love, I am the presence of loving kindness. Breathing in, I know that I am breathing in. And breathing out, I know that I am breathing out. And I call forth now into the chalice of my heart, my open heart, the willingness to see the one who has caused hurt. I am willing to be open to their humanity, to open my heart to their suffering, and to be open to the truth of who they truly are. There by grace go I. And as I sense this individual, I affirm these words, and you may affirm them after me. Let yourself be free of ill will. Allow yourself to be free from suffering. Oh, I sense you grounded in divine strength and security. I sense you as the embodiment of wholeness. And allow yourself to be the presence of loving kindness. Oh, and soul before me, I breathe the grace and the love of the Creator. I send it out to you. Peace, peace be still. May we be freed together in the stillness. And breathing in and breathing out, sensing the warmth, calling forth for divine grace to meet you right where you are, and for that very grace to meet who you have held in prayer. Oh, may a great healing and transformation be done unto you. For in our sleeplessness, we know not what we do. So let us awaken, let us awaken, let us live from the qualities of the mother, of that love, of that wisdom, of that compassion, mercy, beauty, tenderness. Let us breathe that, call it forth in, and allow ourselves to vibrate in body, mind, emotion, and spirit, for we are the light of the world. And so it is. Amen. My blessing is that you are transformed, my friends. Have a blessed day and a blessed week.